All right, Ben, good morning. It is part two of the best 4 days in basketball every year. Great day yesterday, buddy. 7-3 with all the games that you had straight. And then I know you missed your parlay. So I guess an overall 7-4. But before we recap, do a little Twitter drama because I don't, it's funny because I always think that there's not like serious people on Twitter. Like if you say something that's ridiculous on Twitter, you wouldn't say it to somebody's face. So I never respond. And Jeremy gets so many different things that I just never. Plus, Jeremy, he's his own man, whatever. But felt like I was coming to your defense yesterday. So there's this random guy who, I guess, he's upset with you because you guys disagreed on the Michigan State Mississippi State game. He commented on your picks. Whatever you remarked after the game one, it was just like it was a little jab. I'll call it a jab. I wouldn't say you dunked on the guy, but it really got him upset. He starts calling you names. Tell me from your perspective what happened yesterday.
Yeah, he this guy has commented on like a million of my things, uh, like all year, and like I'll occasionally respond. I usually don't respond, but there was one time earlier in the year, but he follows me. I'm looking at your response now. Like you said, follow him. He follows me. So I don't I don't know. The guy's a weirdo. But earlier in the year, I had a Missouri. Was it Missouri? Missouri. I had a I don't know if it was Big 12 or SEC. Can't remember the exact game, but I had a team to cover 2.5. And they didn't. Or they weren't most of the game. They were down like 20 to start the game. It was ugly. And he responds and says, really great bet, blah, 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 already cooked, whatever. They come all the way back and cover in overtime. And I responded with that's why there's what I say, that's why there's 40 or 45, there was
Right.
45 minutes in the game or whatever. And he got furious and like blew up. So I'm like, all right, now he continuously comment. He always comments his bets on my page. I don't like. I'm not taking your bets. I don't care. But he comments his bets, and yesterday he commented Michigan State. Um,
He
Michigan
agreed with
State.
I agree with you on Oregon, but disagree on Michigan State.
Right, right. I disagree on Michigan State, and like, okay, like good luck to you. So then Michigan State wins, and I'm on Twitter a lot, but I like don't. I don't know. I see my reply. I don't always see my replies. I don't see my replies that much, but I saw the Michigan State one. As soon as I posted, I saw he commented that, whatever. Michigan State wins.
So you
I'm
jabbed.
watching the games.
I
What'd
said
you
so
say?
I said so you jabbed him.
Yeah. So Michigan State wins. I just post the Izzo gif. I just thought it was funny, the Izzo gif, whatever. Never did I say good your bet loss. Never did I say anything like that. I just said like trust Michigan State. Like I really liked them. I put out a good write out about them. And he didn't like it. I liked them. They won. So I put out an Izzo gif.
You lost it.
Oh my gosh. I mean, out of nowhere, he's like sending books about how I look 10. Like, all right, dude, I could have said something about how he looked, but I didn't. I
Right,
let
you
him.
you would have thought the comments were coming from a physical fitness model who is super successful in life, and it was like But anyway, so I replied. So it's late last night. All the games are finished, and I see it, and I was like, basically, the biggest thing that bothered me was like, Ben, you're not posting your picks, so the picks don't count. You don't show your betting tickets. You're just doing this for clicks, and I was like, you know what? Most people are. So it's a good argument that he's making. He's right about probably 95% of the people. He's just wrong about you. So I nicely was like, hey, he may look like he's 12. He may not own his own house yet. Like if
Right.
you want to poke things at him, you can go for it. But on the actual games, no. The games come out always before they start. Period. There's no bullshit. If anything, and we were talking about it yesterday, you're just more humble than I would ever be if I was putting out the records that you were putting out. You haven't quite asked for a pay raise yet, but you're in the process of earning one because yesterday, honestly, you did great yesterday. So let's get into it. Hell, what was the main? Well, I'll tell you my main takeaway from yesterday, and then I'll get yours, and we'll go into today. Um, Karma is a bitch. So I am assuming that most Colorado State fans were clowning Virginia for not being able to score. And I look up and I'm like, thanks to you, honestly, I didn't bet on Colorado State. I really was going to bet on them. You talked me out of it. You're like, I really don't like it. You made weird faces when I told you I like Colorado State. They score 11 points. They looked absolutely tired and cooked. That was the reason I want to start with that game is because when you're right about a game, you deserve to brag about it. You had some games yesterday that you were right about, other games that are 50-50 games. So that was a headline to me. Texas looked great. Colorado State was exhausted, got that one wrong. And then the game that I'd like to brag about, but not the game, but just having Carolina and their total points, that was an easy cash. They got off to a great start, didn't let up. So that played out the way I thought it would. But go ahead. Talk about what your main headlines. What's the first thing that comes to your mind after yesterday?
John Calipari is an awful coach. That's the biggest thing. I like every year I this year I semi bought into him. I took him to the Sweet 16 in my bracket. I still didn't think that because I mean you can't rely on freshmen in March, especially now with the transfer portal. But I semi bought into him. I thought they would be solid. I didn't think there was any chance. I in my write up on the Telegram, I write up my article. I wrote if Calipari loses this game, he should be fired before he gets to the locker room. Like, obviously, no, I'm not being serious, but just like a thing like, there's no chance he can lose this game. And his team, once again, shows up unprepared eh, against an Oakland team who's older, but like they don't have more talent than the Kentucky team. This is regular for Calipari. It's getting old. Since 2019, they've won one NCAA tournament game. Kentucky. Like we're talking about Kentucky, who's always in the preseason top 5, top 10. They've won one NCAA tournament game since 2019. But I
Yeah.
know the COVID year counts, but that's bizarre to think about. You've lost to St. Peter's and Oakland in the past two. Like I
And
just
yeah,
don't.
obviously you had Tennessee yesterday. St. Peter's didn't put up much of a fight. So I'm betting a bunch of different bets yesterday, but again, it was pretty small, waiting until I really love a game. But then at the end of the night, I was down an extra $338, and it took me 10 minutes. Like I'm like, so for the record, I'm not betting through DraftKings or FanDuel, so we'll leave it at that. So I'm like, hey, is he making a mistake or what the hell's going on? I'm like, fuck, I bet Kentucky to win the national championship in December or January. Like that was my team. I only got it at 10-1, but I bet three. I don't even know where I came up with that number. But so anyway, I was like, oh, well, that was an unexpected loss yesterday because there goes that money. So I didn't bet Kentucky yesterday to win, but I did think it's funny because I'm a lot like you. I'm like, man, Calipari, it's the formula, the transfer portal has changed it because
It
now
has.
too many teams are loaded up with seniors and Calipari's still stuck with all freshmen. He said after the game, I guess he had to, right? Because people like you were killing him. Hey, maybe I need to switch up my roster building. It's like, yeah, you fucking think so? So all right, that was one takeaway. What else? That Kansas game was crazy, right?
Yeah, and I felt that I was on the right side for 35 minutes. Like I obviously the over cashed,
I
but
was gonna say, yeah, go ahead.
Kansas should have covered. Like Sanford got hot or whatever, but Kansas ball security. Obviously, you don't have McCullough, that's tough, but you still have Dewan Harris. And I felt like there were so many possessions where they were just like letting him go chill in the corner and forcing the ball to Timberlake or Furphy, or even KJ Adams, who really, I mean, for his size, can handle it fine, but Sanford's gonna jump on that and take the ball away. So Kansas won like I thought they would, but they got a little lucky at the end with the that looking in live
A
time. I
little
thought was
lucky
foul.
that I was saying that blocked it. And dude, what is the press break? They are breaking the press like I watched in high school. They throw the ball to Hunter Dickinson, and if you're rooting for Kansas, you're just like, first of all, he makes
Yell
a lot of great passes, but this cannot be the best press break that we could possibly come up with, right?
And yeah, and he also got away with a few like that's Dickinson's game. Like he does it he did it in Big Ten play, does it in Big 12 play. He plays physical, he shoves guys off of him, but late in the game they were pressing on him. Like you said, he comes down, they give it to him, which I mean he's a fine free throw shooter, but that's not who you want at the line. But he like shoves into the guy. They don't call anything. The crowd goes crazy. He chucks down the court. They get a dunk. But I don't know. It's Bill Self's a great coach. I don't like kind of jumping on him, and I understand he's in a tough spot with McCullough out, but I don't know. I just feel like when you have a guy like Dewan Harris, who every time he has the ball makes guys move, gets around guys, dribbles around guys, like doesn't turn the ball over. Why is he not? Obviously, there's a game plan. There's press breaks. I know that. Like I know basketball, whatever. But I just don't like how
Their
Dewan Harris
focus,
didn't
yeah,
touch
I
the
was gonna
ball.
say their focus on the press. It wasn't like they didn't know what they were doing. They're like, yeah, we break the press the way you would think, like in high school, where you don't have an elite ball handler. And it's like, wouldn't it just be better if we pass the ball to Harris and kind of spread out, and then he'll just make the play? But they did get a handful of easy buckets off of that. The Furphy, is that how you say his name, right?
Furphy, yeah, Furphy.
He comes out this year, right? He'll be a lottery pick. I love his game. I mean,
Most likely,
I feel like he's perfect for the NBA, just the
he
way he
is.
catches and shoots.
Very similar to Grady Dick, who they had last year, but he's a guy that was not being talked about in NBA talks early in the year, and then he blew up like right in the midway point of Big 12 play or early in Big 12 play, and all of a sudden everybody's talking about him being a lottery pick from Australia. He's really really good player. Um, Plays a good role. I
He'll end
think,
up on the Thunder, dude, like the 27th, 20th pick, and be
yeah,
perfect.
with their fifth first round pick.
All right. Cool. People got to make some money today. They're on the edge of their seat. I'm going to start with two games and then we'll kind of just go in a different direction, depending on where your head's at. I loved Florida Atlantic when the bracket came out. Really liked Florida Atlantic. And then the more I thought about it this morning, I'm like, I'm going to start the fucking day betting on Florida Atlantic. They're going to lose, aren't they? Like everyone seems to like Florida Atlantic. And then I look back at their schedule and I didn't like the way they ended the year. They haven't really beat teams. I haven't been watching them play. So if you don't mind, can we start with a breakdown because no one needs to lose the first game. You're dead right about Michigan State. So what's the analysis here on the Florida Atlantic Northwestern? I know you know a lot about Northwestern, them being in the Big Ten. So break it down for us.
Yeah, Florida Atlantic's a very very good team. I mean, they're not what they were last year, even though they brought basically everybody back, and they still deserve to be in the tournament. I think they got a little bit of a high seed, kind of unfairly, but offensively they're great. They score the ball really well, but they have some lacks on defense, and they played in a really down AAC conference, and they couldn't stop. Like teams like Temple were scoring 70 on them. So when you look at what I like in this game, specifically, my first bet of the day, it's not a money line. It's just Northwestern team total over 69.5 points. Northwestern's done it a bunch, and I mean you don't have Northwestern's without two guys, but still don't think they have an issue scoring 70 against this FAU team. I didn't take Northwestern's money line because FAU can go out and score 80 and still win the game, but I'm just going team total here. And also real quick, not to get away from this, but you said UNC's team total yesterday, and I kind of before their game, I sat down and kind of looked a little bit more into it, and I actually bet it. I put money on it, so Ryan gave me some good advice
Hey,
there, and it
dude.
cashed. It was beautiful cash.
Well, perfect because what's his face? I felt like this is gonna sound funny, but now that you said it, if there's ever gonna be a fix or conspiracy for one of these games, I don't know who spent. I don't know. I'm sorry. I don't know how much money was spent on the Baycott commercial, but that son of a bitch is on my screen. They paid for that to go for the next 2 weeks. But yeah, dude. Well, thanks for saying that. I appreciate it. All right, so you got Northwestern team over, but you don't love the game. I think that's what I need to hear because Florida Atlantic. Why do you think the line's 3.5? Is it because they were so good last year and just public money, or
Public money. I mean, this is the upset you've heard of. Public money's a big thing. At Northwestern being injured is tough, but they still have Boo Buie, which is why I like Northwestern. Like, I'm probably 59 to 60, 40 in terms of Northwestern. Like, I would bet their money line. I don't know if I'm going to do it yet. I'm not giving it out, but I do think Northwestern wins the game. I just don't think FAU is good enough defensively. Their offense is very, very good. They have really, really good guards, good big, and Northwestern kind of struggles inside. But FAU just does not play much defense, and this could be a game where Boo Buie goes for 35 and kind of gets the national spotlight, kind of like Cousinard did for Oregon yesterday.
just a tough right? If anything, what I'm hearing from you is if you like Florida Atlantic, just put them on the money line. It could be tight at the end of the
Yeah,
game. So the next game I wanted to talk about is because Jeremy loves Nebraska. He said it was his favorite game for the past, like as soon as the tournament came out. And my first instinct was I love Texas A&M. Um, I would prefer a team that's bigger and stronger in this type of game. Nebraska runs a pro style offense. I think the Nebraska story is somewhat well documented because it's their first trip here. Hoiberg's their coach. So if you've been following, especially Maryland fans, you've been following Nebraska, it's like, wait, Nebraska's good at basketball? And it's like, yeah, he actually has built a pretty good team. I just feel like they're getting a bad matchup with A&M. Break down this game for me. How do you see it?
yeah, I really like Nebraska too. Um, I just think shooting wise, teams in March can shoot. Nebraska's a far better shooting team. Texas A&M's awful from beyond the arc. Don't shoot the three well. They're better inside, but Nebraska has a few guys that can kind of limit them. It'll be important for Nebraska to box out. Texas A&M's got a lot of second chance points, and Nebraska, if you kind of look at those numbers,
Can I
Nebraska
stop?
needs to limit offense. What'd you say?
That's what I want to stop you right there with. So what took me over the top was I hated how Nebraska let Illinois just bully them at the end of the like. Illinois is like, fine, we'll just go to the basket. If we miss, we'll just keep. And they had those big boys, and I'm like, isn't that what Texas A&M is going to do? How does Texas A&M match up defensively against Nebraska? Because the one point of talking for Nebraska is if A&M's down 10, 15 points, that's not, that doesn't fit how they want to play. So can A&M slow them down? Like, are you leaning towards Nebraska because you think A&M's defense isn't going to be good?
No, A&M actually has a really good defense, force a lot of turnovers, but I just think the shooting wise, like there's only so much you can do to stop shooters. And we saw it yesterday in the Kentucky game. I mean, the dude for Oakland knocked down 10 threes, and it was like covered threes. He was knocking them down. This game, honestly, to me is going to come down to Tominaga. I think he's like a Jimmer Fredette type, March Madness kind of get him out there. Like if Tominaga can come out and do what he's done, he's very hit or miss. Like in games where he plays well, energy is flowing, they're playing well, and he's shooting threes from the logo, which is kind of unguardable. I mean, they can stay up there with him, but he also can dribble and pass. I think Nebraska's going to try to drag them out, kind of get some screens set for Tominaga. And Tominaga is a shooter that quick release can force himself open real quick and knocks down crazy shots. So I think he's going to get hot in this tournament. He's a big time player. And I just really like Nebraska. I think the 3 point difference will change this game. Like you saw earlier in the year when Nebraska gets D'd up and can't score,
That's what I feel like is going to happen.
they're terrible. Like it happened against Maryland, but I don't know. A&M just doesn't really give that to me. I mean, they've had it their success a few times this year. But like even in those games, like the Kentucky game, they still allowed like 77 points. They just were really, really on scoring. I don't see them stopping Nebraska though. I think Tominaga is a big difference maker in here.
Already, well, you know what? You know what? I'm gonna say this is kind of interesting. When someone disagrees with you, your feelings after, like if it's somebody you respect, your feelings after can tell you a lot. And after hearing it, all I'm thinking about is you're just pissing off Wade Taylor. He's better than that Kuminaga guy, and he's gonna get to the lane. And I don't know. I'm gonna have a hard time getting away from Texas A&M. I will say because that you're so high on Nebraska, it'll make me double check it, and I feel like that's your value more than anything. You cannot make me bet Nebraska. Maybe this is a good like time to pause for a second because I like Texas A&M. So if I like Texas A&M and then I start doing my research, and part of my research is what's Ben really think? Because I really trust Ben. What's he think? He's like Ben loves Nebraska. At most, it's a no bet. Like, there's no way I'm gonna let Ben convince me to then bet on a game where I already like the team. So if he convinces me, he's like, dude, I think you missed something. This Kaminga, whatever the hell he's talking about. It's like, all right, fine, I won't bet. Like, I'm not gonna then go to the other side because if I do that, then I'm gonna be like emotionally tied to Ben because then it's like, oh, what's Ben's next game? And he keeps doing this. Ben's 5-0 again yesterday, and then has to finish 7-3, and no one's more pissed off than he is. But it's like you can't double down after Tennessee wins by 50 on his over Drake
Right.
Washington State game. It just doesn't work that way. So yeah, you made me pause, but I still feel like I'm leaning A&M. Those were the two games that jumped out at me. And then I wanted you to start off with anything that jumped out at you. And if you don't mind, lead with the New Mexico Clemson game as far as the line is concerned, because obviously they're the 11 seed, Clemson's the 6, but New Mexico's favored. Thoughts on that one, and then any other lines, totals. I'm going to shut up for a few minutes and just kind of let you roll with some things that you think we need to pay attention to.
Yeah, real quick before I jump into that, but yeah, like it's not the Nebraska game is not like yesterday Tennessee, the Kansas over. Like there were a few that I was like bet like I love it. This is a play I'm going to give out. I'm going to take it. I like Nebraska, but like I said, if Texas A&M grabs offensive boards like they're capable of doing, they'll win this game, and I think that's going to be the difference maker. So Nebraska boxing out's big, but jumping in the New Mexico game. Clemson is a lean for me. I've seen people with New Mexico going to Sweet 16, Elite Eight. Like this is another very public dog by seed, but not obviously on the lines because New Mexico's a favorite. I like Clemson. I like Clemson outright. I just love what Clemson has. They have good guards. And the one thing they lack is defensively. They're one of the best teams in the country offensively, and I think that's going to give issues to New Mexico. So Clemson money line is a lean at plus money, but I'm not taking it. I'm taking the over. I really like the over here. New Mexico is good defensively, but a lot of their good defense is forcing turnovers and getting pace and running and scoring. That bodes well for an over, even with the good defense. A lot of games this year they did their part on the cashing the over, and the other teams didn't. But Clemson's not going to no show. I have a really good feeling after what they did in the ACC tournament. Played terrible. They're going to bounce back here. Joe Girard is a big name. I like Joe
You
Girard
love
a
that
lot. I
kid,
think,
don't you?
yeah, I'm a huge fan of Joe Girard. He's just in these games. He's older. Actually, me and my dad and a couple of his friends do like a college basketball fantasy March Madness thing. It's just points. You take guys to score points. And Joe Girard was one of mine. He was like, I took him late, but this guy's like exactly what you want for Clemson in a game like this. Because New Mexico's pretty experienced. Like if you look at their guys, they've got a number of experienced guys. Um, but that's why like Clemson can match them scoring, and New Mexico, like I said, they can force some turnovers. But I mean, if they do force a few turnovers, turns into layups, and that's quick pace, more and more scoring, Clemson will get the ball, go down, and shoot the three. So that's why I like the over here.
And that 11-6 game sounds similar to your breakdown. And that was one of the games you got lucky with the NC State Texas Tech where that cash for you.
Yeah.
And that was another game where I liked NC State. I ended up not betting it because of what you said, but it wasn't going to make me bet Texas Tech. But you were like, yeah, I like the over more than that. So that was your first. What besides the Clemson New Mexico game, excuse me, that I brought up? Were there any lines or totals that you were like, wow, they missed that by 5 or 6 points there?
Today was genuinely a rough day for me. Kind of like yesterday, I looked at a lot like the Tennessee game to me. Like I know I've talked about it a couple times, but like I really like it just didn't. It was way too low. Tennessee was way too high scoring. Tennessee was way too angry. Um, there's a few like overs. Like I like the UConn over. Um, and then there's one that like looking statistically kind of makes sense, but I could not get away from it. Grand Canyon at the end of the night, team total over. We know how I ended the night last night with the totals and over, so that was rough. But Grand Canyon 63.5. They've gone over it in every single game this year except for one. St. Mary's is the second best team in the country defensively in terms of opponent scoring, but Grand Canyon can score and St. Mary's is tough. They're not a team you want to play, but it would not shock me to see Grand Canyon pull off the upset. And it's tough that I'm saying that because this is another like public upset everybody
Right. I was gonna
predicts.
say,
And
isn't that just like the Gonzaga
yeah,
McNeese, right? Same conference as far as
yep.
Gonzaga and St. Mary's. You were dead right about Gonzaga yesterday. I feel like no one's gonna want to give 5.5 points in a 12-5 matchup. Why is it 5.5 points? Is it a
Just
bad matchup?
Grand Canyon's offense and St. Mary's lack of like St. Mary's can score, but they're best getting the ball to the point guard and swinging it around 5 times and looking for the open shot with 5 seconds left in the shot clock, and that's bad pace for Grand Canyon, who's catch and shoot, can really shoot the ball. Like I said, they're just a good scoring team. And also, I mean, the coach Drew, he had a very very fun run years ago in the NCAA tournament. So,
But you don't know about that run.
I seen the highlights, I seen the videos. I
I remember
was
where go ahead.
I was way not for me. I mean, yeah, like the dude said on Twitter, I'm a 10-year-old kid, so
I still
I didn't
remember.
see it.
Dude, that's one of those plays where I remember the basement of my friend's house that I was at. That was so cool. Valparaiso, one of the best passes. Awesome. So he made the shot. Now he's the coach for Grand Canyon. You said right? Have
Yep.
they won? They were in the tournament last year, right? Or the year before?
I believe they were in last year. They're in a
They
pretty
haven't
tough
won though.
conference.
They haven't won a
No,
game.
no.
So at the end of the night, I feel like maybe we can start and kind of continue there because the end of the night is like maybe call it Trap City, or like TCU's -3.5, but similar to the Florida Atlantic situation, they're in the 9 seed.
Yep.
Utah State. What's the analysis in that game? Because I like TCU's like these games when you see the 9 seeds favored over the 8 seed by 3.5 points. But again, you like Northwestern. Then the Clemson New Mexico line is begging you to take New Mexico. Yesterday, some of those lines that were begging you to go one way. So I always say, like when it comes to the lines, I know I'm rambling here, but I just peeked at Carolina, Michigan State. Their team total is 72.5. I'm like, what? am I missing here? Michigan State is going to run. They slowed it down against Mississippi State because they were winning the whole time. But as soon as Carolina misses a shot on Saturday, Izzo is going to have them run up and down the court because if Carolina gets set, their defense is too good. Anyway, so I look at some of these and I'm like, Texas's team total is fucking in the 70s. I'm like, did you watch like Tennessee? Anyway, we can get to that tomorrow. But if the line is screaming at you something, I would say in this tournament, just go with your analysis of basketball because the lines can be skewed because some really wealthy alumni just bet 5 million. You know what? You just don't know why the lines are. With that being said, explain the TCU Utah State line and then pivot that into the Wisconsin James Madison because that seems like a small line. That's only 5.5. So go ahead.
Yeah, TCU's defense is the big difference here. And Utah State obviously being a mid-major, TCU is going to get money on them, and even me, like I like TCU minus 3.5. I kind of like it. Not a play I'm giving out. I'm giving out their money line parlayed with a few others, just as kind of a ladder or whatever. But I mean, TCU is going to have to score, but I've seen a lot of games this year where Utah State gets stopped defensively because Osborne can't get going inside and he's getting defended well, and TCU can match that. And then, like I said, like kind of scared with them scoring. But this is a tournament I feel like Emmanuel Miller, their guard, can really take it over. Kind of longer guard, and he has very very good scoring ability. Um, I think that they can turn some steals into points too. They're like top 10 in the country in steals or steal rate, I think. And Utah State's good. They got some experienced guys. Ian Martinez, who was at Maryland for a few years, but I mean, experience in their conference versus experience in the Big 12. I'm leaning towards experience in the Big 12.
TCU lost that heartbreaker to Arizona last year, right?
Yes. What's his name? Miles, Miles. I think his last name is Miles. They had a tough guard. He played with Cade Cunningham in AAU. I
Yeah,
remember
yeah,
watching
yeah.
him then. But he was really tough. They had him and kind of. I also like Jamie Dixon. I'm big on
He's
coaching. I
great.
say that all the time. I really like Jamie Dixon.
Great coach. So what about this James Madison Wisconsin game? Feels like it's hard to pull the trigger on James Madison. But what's the analysis there? Because Wisconsin is exhausted, right? Like that Big Ten tournament, that last game against Illinois, that was like a heavyweight fight. It feels like if James Madison gets up on them early and the crowd's going to root for James Madison, thoughts on that game?
Yeah, I actually like writing my stuff this morning. Um, put Wisconsin minus 5.5. Like all week, I was saying I was going to take it because of the public, and I start to write it, and I'm like, I can't do it. So I think they win and cover, but I don't know. Like when you look at what James Madison's done all year, it's pretty crazy. They shoot the three really well. Wisconsin, as good as they are defensively inside, struggles stopping the three. So James Madison can knock some threes down. I did add Wisconsin money line in a parlay and the parlay of the day. It's just kind of tough because to me, James Madison hasn't been tested really throughout their conference play. Obviously, App State was like an outlier in the conference. They're never good, and they were the 1 seed. And then it would be an upset. Beat James Madison twice during the regular season, but then App State losing the first round, so we didn't get to see the third matchup.
I was gonna say in App State, they were running up and down the court against Wake Forest. Is James Madison just gonna race up and down the court all night tonight?
Yeah, I think it'll be pure run and gun from them. They shoot the three really well, and like I said, Wisconsin does not stop the three. But Wisconsin's big thing to get a win here is to slow the game down. That's what they do. I mean, this year they've played at a bit of a faster pace because they have guys like AJ Storr, who they never really had. You know, he went for 30, I think, against Illinois, but I don't know. I lean Wisconsin. I like them minus 5.5, but I don't love it enough to give it out, like I said. And I don't know, like the experience in this one for Wisconsin is big to me too. Like this is a lot of guys who have played together. Obviously, Storr was a transfer from St. John's this year, but everybody else, Hepburn, Crowell, Wall, have all played together a bunch. So I think they're going to pull this one out. I think it'll be tight, might be ugly, but if James Madison gets hot from the three, they'll probably win the game.
So Houston and Connecticut are both going to win. We'll even say Purdue's going to win. We'll give that to them. Marquette, Baylor. I'm not necessarily asking you to predict it. Duke, Auburn, but we know one of these teams are going to lose. Who would you be least surprised that's 4 or better loses today?
Yale beating Auburn is I actually put $10 on it. I'll pay like 60. I don't know.
Charles Barkley said that they're not going to lose to the smart kids, though.
Yeah, Charles
Said that
Barkley.
10 times, dude. He's running out of material, right? Like, I'm not listening to me. Like, just and why is he on there? Like, can you just put the villain? What's his name? Jim.
You're right.
Yeah, Jay Wright. Thank you. Like, he just, dude, Jay Wright. I put you and Jay Wright. Like, that's where I get my advice from. Like, just let Jay Wright break down the game, please.
Yeah, no, I really I like Yale. I like this is an upset that legitimately nobody has projected, and Auburn has beat up on every like quad one team they played. I think they're 24-0, which is pretty impressive. And Yale isn't really a great shooting team, but they try to slow the game down.
Oh, dude, I'm sorry. I just had something come to my mind. You're the perfect person to ask this because I asked Jeremy, but he's too removed from high school to have an opinion on this. Would you rather have the high school? You actually had this high school career, pretty much, slash whatever you did in college. I don't know all the details. I just know you never played March Madness tournament. Would you prefer your athletic career, or do you want to be the point guard on Brown? And have had because, dude, I don't know how he's ever getting over that. Because when you think about Yale, that kid missed both free throws, and then Yale comes down and gets the buzzer beater. So, can you do you ever get over that? Like, you're basically that kid's age. How in God's name do you ever get over that?
I mean, it was tough, but I think it might be worse to be the guy from Kent State who fouled.
Dude, you can't bring that up. That's what Jeremy said, and then I said something about Kent State. I made fun of the fact that at least the kid from Brown's probably going to be really smart and rich. And then I had a guy, a customer. He's like, "Dude, I went to Kent State. Why are you throwing that under the bus?" It's so funny. You did exactly what Jeremy did. You're like, "Hey, let's. I don't want to hurt that guy's feelings. Let's go to the other." Oh, dude, it's brutal, right? Like,
It was it
I
was
cut you
so
off.
rough to watch. Like I watched video like 5 times, and every time, like, bro, like my heart crushes. Like it's like the worst thing ever to watch. I hate it so much. Like it's literally awful. Like I don't know.
As much as you prayed that you had enough talent to make it as far as them, are you at least at peace that you never like ruined so many people's it's almost like you can get over it for yourself, but you hurt all these people that are just dying to get to the tour. Oh man, it's brutal.
Yeah, it is tough. I mean I like pressure. I if I would I mean I was pretty good at basketball, but I mean I like free throws are it's a mind game. Like I play in a men's league and I shoot free throws. Like I'll go shoot the free throws and I can make like legitimately 30 in a row. And I get in the game and like shoot it too short, you shoot it too long. It's legitimately like purely a mind game. So like I mean a guy missing 2 free throws, like especially after that first one doesn't go in, like if you don't make the first one, you're in trouble. Like
I
it's
watched
always
that second half. Yale Brown was great. All right, I'm gonna let you run in a minute, but I literally was as I was asking you like what upset was gonna happen. I for the first time I glanced at Purdue Grambling State, and by the first time I mean like glanced at the spread. I feel you're gonna have to tell me if I'm off on this, but I'm started. Yeah, I feel the same way about this game that I did about Carolina, except I don't want to just focus on Purdue's team total. This it's only 138 and a half. This has to go over because Grambling State, I mean Purdue's you know what? As I'm saying that, I'm taking Purdue's team total over. Like Purdue, if they're going to lose today, they're not going to go out scoring 62 points again. And Grambling State, yeah, I don't think it's lighting the world on fire. Am I missing something here? I think that's now starting as we're talking. I think I just found my favorite game. I think I like the over 138 and a half Grambling State Purdue. And then I'd have to go look at the team total. Give me a second, but go ahead. Tell me what your. We'll make that the last topic, and then I'll let you get out of here.
yeah, Purdue is I mean these games are weird. Grambling State had scoring success of their own against Montana State when they got hot, but sometimes the 116 matchups are tough and you kind of want to shy away from, but Purdue, like you have to think every day Painter's been just playing the video of you losing to a 16 seed every single day and shooting less than 20% from three in that game and turning the ball over a ton of times and just playing really bad basketball. Like this year, Purdue shot the ball well. Um, Edie, I mean, it also depend on how officials kind of officiate for Edie. I think in the Big Ten, Purdue fans will disagree and say he gets fouled in every possession, but Edie shoots, I think this year he shot 347 free throws or something outrageous like that. And then there's a guy like not his height, but Ryan Kalkbrenner for Creighton. If you watch Creighton play, as
Yeah.
big as he is, he shot 120 some. So like Edie's the way officials play Edie, I think will play into this team total. Grambling won't be able to match up with him. Nobody will. But
And
Are the
isn't
officials going to call touch fouls on him or no? Like it's a thing.
and isn't Grambling's only chance to win just to go in transition? It's not like they want
Yes.
to run the half court. So yeah, all right. You know what? This is good. I was joking with one of my buddies because I was like, I was on the phone with him this morning. I'm like, yeah, he doesn't know too much about you, but I told him a little bit, and I was like, yeah, Ben thinks we're doing this podcast for all the customers, but really, it's just helping me formulate my bets for the day. This is great, man. Glad I could help you with North Carolina.
Hell yeah. That was
Yes,
great. That was a great call. That was perfect.
well, and that's why we're doing this. And the more we do it, and hopefully the more people listen, they'll realize. And I think that's probably the best point I've made, frankly, since I've started this company, which is the best or the thing that somebody can do is talk you out of a play that you like, but they can't make you bet a game. And if they do that, then something's wrong with your process. You really shouldn't be doing this because at that point, you really want to just give Ben all of your bankroll and then pay
Yes.
him a percentage of it. Like if that's how you want to do it, I'll give you Ben's Cash App information. I'm sure he won't turn you down. Like if you just want to give him the money and then he can take a percentage of it. But in all seriousness, if you hear something that somebody says, whether it's from the three of us or just anybody that you're getting information from, let them at the most, that's what I was looking for. At the most, they can talk you out of a bet that you like, right? There's like if you heard what Ben said, he's like, oh, after you talked about it, I then did my own research. It wasn't like, oh, Ryan likes North Carolina's over, I'm gonna bet it. It's like, all right. The way I look at it is also like signs. Like, why did the Lord have me talk to this guy right this second about this? And it's like, fuck, he said something. Let me do my own work. But all right, we're getting close to game time. I want to make sure you get your card out. Are we good? You're good tomorrow morning?
Oh yeah.
Tomorrow morning. Good. We'll do 9 o'clock in the morning. Jeremy will join us. Jeremy had an up and down day yesterday. Some really close games. So I know he's looking forward. He loved Nebraska. We'll see what else pops up on his card. And anything else, Ben, or should I let you roll?
No, yeah, real quick. I know we only have a few minutes, but like you were saying with kind of whatever people like only betting what I say, like I'm gonna win more than I lose. My numbers have said that. It's not like confidence, but there will be like freezing cold streaks. Like there's no handicapper, and if there is one, find him that is like every week is just
They don't
giving you
exist.
out money.
Yeah,
Like
they
it
don't.
doesn't it's not real. It doesn't happen. And one thing with me, like I'm gonna give you my reasoning, and I'm gonna give you data to show why I like something. And if it doesn't hit, like we're betting on human beings. Like we're not betting on like robots. Like we're betting on people like we are, and anything can happen. So like I said yesterday, I mean, trying to be quick, but like I just really like the analysis of it. And obviously winning money's cool, but like anything can happen in these games. Like Kentucky losing to Oakland yesterday. There's nothing you can look at to say, oh, well that I mean, obviously Calipari's struggling, but like there's nothing you can look at there and say, oh, that makes sense. It happens. Like they're human.
If you're looking for a sure thing, find a local baseball game with middle school and high school kids, and then you'll know exactly who will win before the game. Besides that, it's yeah. All right, that was well said, Ben. We will see you in the morning. Good luck to everybody. Have any questions? Just send me a message, email me. I try to get back to everybody as fast as possible. And cool. See you in the morning, Ben.